Knicks and Bruises, we are back. NBKFam in the building. Queens Court, the controversy. Knicks and Bruises, you know how we do on Mondays.
That's all right.
We back. Um, we excited too, man. The season is upon us. Um, Preseason game number one starts tomorrow. The season's right around the corner. Um, I mean, we got a lot to talk about. How you guys doing? Thank you guys for coming back.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I've never been. I can't remember. I don't. I guess I shouldn't say never. I don't remember the last time I was this hyped for the season to start. So I'm looking forward to this show. I'm looking forward. It's gonna be a busy season with Josh show, Sim, 3 shows for every game. This show, I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. I'm tired now. I can't imagine how it's gonna be. After like
It's
a
true.
month into the season, we probably
It's
gonna
true.
be working on how to rotate schedules and things of that
Yeah,
nature. Like,
yeah.
um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I'm
definitely.
excited too. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on here with you and the Queen. Like you guys said, I'm definitely excited about this season too. Like so many things have transpired in the off season. There's a lot of optimism amongst the fan base, and we are definitely optimistic about how the team is going to perform this season. So let's get it on. I can't wait. Let's tip the ball up, ref. Let's go. Let's get
Oh,
it started.
That's a
Here we
fact.
go.
That's a fact. So, I mean, a few things. I'm gonna put up the whole schedule for the preseason. We could talk about who we're gonna play.
hmm
We don't have to go into details because I know we all gonna break down each game every time. So you know what I mean. Just a quick overview going into the season opener.
right.
But tonight I really want to talk about who stays or and who plays and who stays. You know what I mean. Who's gonna stay on this team? I think we have. Is it 2 spots now that Vidoza's gone, or is it one official spot?
I think it's still one.
Only
Okay.
one, yeah, one
Yeah.
official spot
All
left
right, so
for
we
for them to
got
fight for
we
in the
got
training
one
camp.
spot open for everybody to fight for. We don't know if if Sims is gonna get that or if he's gonna stay on the 2 way. So I think that's gonna be part of the discussion. Um,
Yeah.
you know who can make it on the roster, and then the young boys, man. I think this is their opportunity to stamp who they are. They're probably gonna get the biggest look right now than potentially throughout the regular season. So they got to show and prove now just to be a thought of in the immediate future. So this is gonna be big for them. But let me go ahead and pull that screenshot up that I got here. You guys, I know I'm blocked off, but we got 7:30 tomorrow. The Pacers. It's gonna be an interesting game. We got the Wizards. We got the Pistons. We got the Wizards again, and then of course that season opener. Hope to see you guys there with the MBK fam and nothing but Knicks. Against Boston. Take that off real quick. Excuse me, as I'm still learning these new tricks,
That's
but
okay.
I'm bringing it to you. I'm working on upgrading. Um, so what do you think about the preseason? Overall 4 games. How do you think we can fare in those 4 games? If you want to just throw a quick projected record.
Go ahead, Queen. You got
Go
it.
ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I think it's going to be the same way like it was last season. Thibodeau trying to figure out the rotations in the roster, how he wants to use them. We're definitely not going to have Mitchell Robinson out there. I'm very kind of skeptical about how they're going to play Kemba Walker. Coming off the knee issues that he had last season or what have you. So it's just basically Tibbs figuring out the rotations, guys kind of getting their feet wet a little bit. Hopefully the rookies get a chance to play a lot, try to get their feet wet, hit the ground running, so to speak. Learn to make their mistakes in games that truly don't really matter. And get those guys out there. So come beginning of the season, they'll be ready to play. And I think it'll just be the same way like last season. Tibbs is going to figure out, who's going to make the cut and who's not going to make the cut as far as the rotations are concerned. We've seen last season that Emmanuel quickly came out of nowhere, right? Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. didn't get much playing time after we seen a little glimpse of Emmanuel quickly in the
Right.
preseason. And I think that's how it's going to happen this particular preseason with some of the young guys and these guys who are on the fence about being in the rotation. So let's see.
Queen.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think that Tibbs is focused on the rotations, focused on how we're playing, trust and believe he's taking stats just like it was a regular season game, seeing which rotations work better, which teams work better with each other. So I'm not sure how much they're going to be focused on winning the game. I think most of the focus again is going to be on the offense, the defense, who plays well together. And I agree with Josh. I think it is an opportunity. I mean, as much as we have McBride and Grimes out of the rotation,
Mm-hmm.
quickly stole that spot.
Mm-hmm.
If you recall, he didn't play the first two games. I don't think, if he was in their plans from the beginning, I think he would have played those first two games. I don't think he was in the plans from the beginning. Third game, they gave him, and he just stole it. And so that opportunity is definitely there to impress Tibbs some more. I'm sure they're impressing him in practice. And as much as I'm high on quickly this year, and as much as we need him, in my opinion, as that third point guard, if McBride's defense is really good, and we know it is, and he shows the ability to knock down the three, maybe not at the same clip or with the same range that quick, but
Mm-hmm.
effective enough. I could see games in which if Quick is not playing very well in the first half, McBride playing in the second half. I could definitely see that.
So you definitely answered the question I was about to ask. Considering we're saying quickly stole his spot. You know what I mean? Which means he stole it from someone, and I think you named Nilakina. Um, my question was gonna be who do you think that spot would be stolen from? So I'm assuming the Queen. You're saying quickly, most likely.
Right. It
Um,
won't be easy though, but yeah.
I mean the one advantage I mean I see in that aspect is quickly mainly played the two all year last year anyway. His point guard duties were very limited. So I could see them both playing if a point guard is out or if it's because of defense.
Right.
Um,
Right.
who's who's solid enough defensively to play at the two over quickly, especially if we're talking about, I mean, in the bench role. Because if you move in Burks, then that three spot is open, and even though Burks is not a true three, he's a bit undersized. He's probably the best guy suited to guard threes in that
Right.
second unit. So
Right.
so um, what do you think of that? And then Josh, do you agree with quickly being the most likely to maybe lose the minutes if McBride is moving up?
Absolutely, it has to be Emmanuel quickly. He's the youngest. He's the youngest out of everyone in that rotation. That's already there. I don't see it being Derrick Rose, and I don't see it being Kemba Walker. Those guys are veterans, former All Stars, former All NBA players. Those guys are veterans. You got to have those guys out there. Now, if injury happens, knock on wood, God forbid. I'm not wishing it on the Knicks. Please
Right.
don't happen because we need
Right. Right. Right.
healthy Kemba. We need healthy Derrick Rose. But if that
Right.
happens, then naturally, then you say Deuce McBride is going to be the person to step in there because of his defense and his ability to be a dog out there on the floor. But if all things considered, if you got Kimba and Derrick Rose fairly healthy, I think quickly it's his job to basically lose at this point. Now,
Right.
there could be an opportunity for them to play together, and it's important. I think it is important to actually bring up Alec Burks. Last season, I wanted Alec Burks potentially in a kind of a three-guard rotation with the Knicks. Particularly when the bench wasn't doing so well, maybe they could have mixed some
Right.
things up like that. I think Alec Burks is capable of playing that. We will suffer a little bit on the defensive end if you have a three-guard rotation there, but it is something that Tibbs can employ to get some quick offense or to just kind of patch things up until guys get healthy. So, but to answer your question, it is Emmanuel quickly, without a doubt. It's going to be a battle for sure.
And to answer your other question, if there is an injury, and I'm with Josh, please, because as much as people feel like we're not gonna miss a beat, like we'll talk about this on the Queen's Court. I just get so excited I can't like hold it back. Like as much as people talk about how important Kimber is to this team, everybody's so happy he's here. But on the flip side, if he gets injured, oh, we're gonna be all right. We're not
Right.
gonna lose a beat. I don't know
Right.
about that. But
Right.
if there is an injury, and I hope there isn't, I think you're right. McBride could play the one, and you can move, quickly could stay there. And I think that opens up opportunity for Knox.
Yeah.
If Rose is out and everybody has to move up one, I think it could potentially open up an opportunity for Knox as well.
Um, I agree, but I still I like think of the situation now. Mitch is the only guy out, right? So this is what I was worried about, and this is why I had Sims as the highest guy on my list as far as most likely to get his minutes.
Right.
Um, because right now, he just moved up a spot before these other young guys
Yeah.
because Mitch is out. We don't know when he's going to be available.
Right.
And now if he takes advantage of his opportunity tomorrow and the next day, I mean the next game, he may just slide right up into the rotation. First off, he might earn that guaranteed contract off jump. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the first thing I think he's got to aim for. But then a rotation spot. Um, are you guys concerned about Mitch not being ready or being held out right now? I personally think he's being held out. I don't. I think he sound like he's ready to go. Um, I'm not mad at the hurdles that they put him through, but and I'm very excited with his maturity and the way he's handling this current situation. But is there any concern with Mitch being out
Are you
or not
saying,
being
Tony,
ready?
that you think he's ready to play and that the Knicks are just not playing him? Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
that's
wouldn't. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think Mitchell Robinson is ready to play yet. I don't think he's at 100%. Now you can argue, okay, well, he can still play at 75, 80% out there, but at this point, it's not worth the risk. At this point, you can risk losing Mitchell Robinson for a prolonged period of time. And if there's something that is recurring that happens during the course of the entire season, then you got to think about playoffs as well. So I think the Knicks are playing it smart right now by not playing Mitchell Robinson. I think they'll be fine in the beginning of the season, trying to pack some things together if some injuries happen. But the thing
Right.
that you want to avoid is a prolonged situation where now you go into the playoffs again without your starting center. And,
mhm.
same thing that goes with the point guard position.
Right.
You're going into the playoffs without your starting point guard. I think that matters. Even though we
Right.
have guys that can fill in and play the position, we got to make sure we, maintain prolonged health for these guys come playoff time.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just say
Exactly.
real quick. I have no gripes with them holding him back.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
With me believing that they're holding him back, I have no gripes with it. I understand it. I think it's you know the they're being precautious, and I'm not mad at that. The reason I think they're holding him back is the original timeline would have put him back towards the end of the playoffs, um the first round of the playoffs. Even though they adamantly said they weren't going to let him come back then. But even then, he had posted that he's ready to come back. I think it was around game four. He posted he was ready to come back. And then I'm just looking at the timeline since then.
Right.
Um, it's hard to imagine that and his own comments about you asking me if I ready. I think I could play now. You know what I mean? But he said I respect them. Coach said I gotta do this, then I gotta do this, and I gotta move up these steps. I'm not mad at that at all. But I think I think at the very least he feels he's ready, and it's well beyond the timeline given from his injury. So
Right.
that's
Right.
that's all I'm going off of.
Right. He could have had a setback though that they
True,
didn't
true.
talk about. But as far as Sims is concerned, as far as being concerned about Mitch, I don't really think we're gonna miss a beat. The reason I say that is that Noel was our starter for most of the season anyway. So I agree. Come playoff time, you definitely want Mitch there. But to start the season, um, Noel was the starter anyway. So it's really working in Kimbo, working in Fournier, working in that chemistry. Um, I think we're going to be fine for now. I don't think we're going to reach our ceiling without Mitch, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But I think we'll be okay to start. And that second unit is pretty much intact. It's intact if we're going to start Taj. I think if we start Sims, he would probably be the only new person in that second unit. And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be upset. Starting Sims because he's back there with players who at least have 1 year playing in the league and Obi and Quick. He would be the only new guy, and there would be enough around him, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not asking him to do much but rebound and and play good defense. So I wouldn't be mad if they started Sims. Actually, I would prefer it unless he just looks lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Other than that, I would prefer it. Yeah.
I prefer it as well. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I definitely would prefer to have Sims in there just for that backup depth. I think Taj Gibson's role this particular season is going to be, just a guy in the locker room, or that kind of situational role. Unless there's major injuries to Noel, now we're talking about, God forbid, that Taj
Right.
Gibson has to get some time. But I think for this particular team, I think Taj Gibson is just that locker room presence, someone that knows what Tibbs wants to do with the expectations from the coach, and he can be able to translate that down to the young players. That's what I think Taj Gibson's role is going to be on this team.
Yeah,
I
that's what we would
I
like it to be, but Tibbs,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And there's that
you know,
part of it too.
right,
Right.
right,
I mean, but again, like I'm saying, these young guys, this is their opportunity. Sims could definitely make a mark in this preseason,
right,
and jump Taj
right,
just off of youth and energy and
right.
athleticism. You know what I mean? Just off of his strengths. You know what I mean? So it's not out the realm of possibility. And
Not at all.
Taj is that guy that is gonna stay ready, accept his role. You know what I mean? He went from not really playing on the Knicks roster to playing some heavy minutes and producing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So he's a true vet. So I don't think he'll be pouting or anything like that. He'll still be teaching
no,
these young guys.
right.
So me and Sim, we had a conversation. I think you were there, Josh. And we talking about Knicks conspiracies. You know what I mean? So
Let me
you
hear
know,
this.
well, this is my thought. I don't want to put this on Sim. So anybody want to go ask somebody, come at me about it. But with my belief of them holding Mitchell back a little bit right now. The first thing I was thinking of is could it be some type of negotiating contract tactic for negotiating a contract for him? But I think I threw that out the window because I think if I'm the Knicks, I'm trying to lock him up now rather than waiting until after the season. But my new Knicks conspiracy is what if they're holding him out just to see what they have in Jericho, just to see how far the gap is between these two guys, and then kind of figuring out if Mitch is expendable or not.
Wow. Go ahead, Josh.
so I mean, look, listen, there's a lot that we don't know right now. But
Right.
the thing is, with Mitchell Robinson, he doesn't make that much money right now. Right now, so if the Knicks let him walk in free agency, the Knicks, are in pretty much the same type of cap situation that they are with Mitchell Robinson on the roster. He only makes $2 million or something like that, right? So it would be in the Knicks' best interest to play Mitchell Robinson, and in the event that they can't necessarily sign him to a contract extension, they can be able to trade him and make him a tradable asset. And for another team to sign him, maybe in a sign a trade situation like that. So I think that would be in the team's best interest.
But there's
With
no bird rights for him.
what do you mean?
Meaning,
They
if
can
they
still.
sign if they sign him to an extension, that money they could potentially go over the cap next year. They would be over the cap next year, but it won't. If I don't know if they can re-sign him and go over the cap next year. I don't know if they could offer him more money than any team coming into next year because of him being a second round pick and the having a full 4-year contract.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Right, so they can't go over the cap to sign him. They don't have his bird rights. I understand what you're saying. Okay, so in that case, then I don't know. Maybe there is a little bit something to that. Maybe there is, but I just don't see any potential reason why the Knicks would want to lose out on playing Mitchell Robinson when he can definitely help the team. And if he is someone that they plan on keeping in the future, they would like to see him out there to see what he can contribute another year into getting coached up and stuff of that nature. So I don't think there's any conspiracy there as far as the Knicks not playing Mitchell Robinson. I think he's legitimately hurt and they want to get him back to 100%. And they feel like they have the pieces that can hold over until he gets back healthy.
Yeah, that's hard for me to believe as well. I'm not saying it is not possible, but yeah, that's hard for me to believe as well. I think they're being just extra cautious with him given his injury history. He could be 100%. Maybe they want him at 125.
Mm-hmm.
You 100%, but we want to see you, go through these paces first. Noel started last season. I think we'll be okay. So yeah, I don't see a conspiracy, but I think part of them signing Noel was insurance in case negotiations don't um, go well with Mitch, and it could also give them some sort of leverage as well, where they're not going in desperate.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guy under contract. We drafted someone in the second round, and the more Sims look like he can play, the more leverage the Knicks have
Mm-hmm.
in negotiations, in my opinion. Because they could say, "Listen, you know, we got Noel, we got Sims. He's looking good. This is as far as we're gonna go." And feel really good about it, as opposed to feeling like if if we don't meet his demands, what do we have? Nothing. So I think in that respect, the Knicks are really going into negotiations in a strong place. And I also think because of the injuries, Mitch injuries, that also strengthens their leverage as well. But
Absolutely.
ultimately, I hope they sign Mitch. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I hope they sign him like before the 20th. I hope they give him that extension. Again, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but now everybody's locked in. There's no question marks about the future. You know what I mean? Not saying it's not just about this year, but it's, you know what I mean? It's not just about this year now for anybody. It's about this year and beyond. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or at the very least 2 years where nobody's looking over their shoulder. It's all
Right.
about work. It's all
Right.
about work and then production.
Right.
So I think the best thing would be to lock them up now and get that out the way. I hope it happens. Um,
How can
but
it happen though, Tone? How can it if they can't go over the cap to keep him around?
they can't. They can sign him now before next year even starts. Now that money is already, you know what I mean. That now that money's already accounted for. They won't be over the cap this year because he's still getting paid $2 million, but he signed for a 4-year extension. You
Yeah,
understand?
but where would
Like
I'm trying to figure out where would the money and the cap come from?
Right. Because we're already capped out
Right
right
now
now.
we're already capped out. So where would the money come from next season? Like whose money is coming off the books?
it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to come off the book. Is what I'm saying. For instance, this was the first year of Ben Simmons 4-year extension.
Right.
So whatever their cap was last year,
Hmm.
it went up this year with his extension kicking in. They didn't have
Well,
to
he
make
was
an adjustment for that money before the year started. You know what I mean? It just so happens that their salary is, let's say his increase was $10 million. I don't know what his numbers are, but let's say he made 20 last year and it's 30 this year. And they was already over the cap last year. The only thing that happened this year is they added another $10 million to how much they're over the cap.
But the thing
You
is,
know,
they had Ben Simmons' rights. They were able to do that because he was drafted by that team in the first round. His money was always going to be guaranteed with them. Mitchell Robinson is a little bit different because he was a second round pick. They don't own some of those rights that come with being that come with typically with first rounders. So for Mitchell Robinson, it's a little bit harder to keep him around. There's going to have to be some money that has to go off the books. Now that can happen via trade. There's multiple ways for that to happen. But it's my understanding that they can't sign Mitchell Robinson to an extension unless some money comes off the books. Maybe I'm wrong. I would do my
they
research.
can't. That's what I'm trying to. They can't next year. I don't believe this year they can because it's in advance. The contract doesn't count until next year. Like a team can go over the cap by 20 $20 million. You know what I mean? Then the double luxury tax starts coming into play.
Right.
You understand? But they don't have to make if they sign him to an extension today that doesn't kick in till next year. They don't have to make any adjustments. They're just on the book for all that money. You understand?
But they're in luxury tax. Are they in a luxury tax?
I don't know. I don't know how close they are to that. But even if they go into the luxury tax next year, when his extension kicks in, that just means they're paying more money. That doesn't mean they can't do it. You understand?
Right. No, I understand. So what's the difference then if they sign him in the off season? You're saying they can't go over the salary cap in the off season?
Either the salary or
he's
the
unrestricted at that point. He's unrestricted at that point. So that's the reason why they would have to sign him as a free agent.
Yeah, it's a free agent. Is and so that sign and trade thing that doesn't benefit the team that's signing him, because whatever they're signing him for, they can sign him for without doing the sign and trade. You understand?
That makes sense. I understand what you're saying.
That like to have his full value.
But they knock out the competition with a sign and trade though, right? Because he's already
I mean, not necessarily, because he could literally sign with whoever offers the most money. You know what I mean? So that's the competition, the value of the contract. So whoever has the most money that could offer him the most money, you know what I mean, he can go there. And I think one of the differences, I don't know if we could go into luxury tax to re-sign him next year. We could probably only sign him up until a certain amount of money. If you do it in advance, luxury tax is just a penalty.
Right, and they can offer him more.
It's not a restriction.
And they can offer him more money at that point. I understand what you're saying, but like I mentioned on the last show with Sim, I think listen, money is a lot. These players definitely going to get paid. There's no doubt about that. But we've seen the Knicks, particularly in this past offseason. This is why I think it was very, very successful, not just from a personnel standpoint, but from a culture standpoint. Right? You got Julius Randle, who could have waited out to unrestricted free agency, but he decided to stay with this team and continue building because he felt like this was the best possible place for him to play at his current situation. And he said he's going to make that money no matter what, right? And then forget about Julius Randle and the players for a second. What about Scott Perry? Scott Perry could have left the Knicks organization. Right now he's like in a second, like vice president, second in command kind of role. He could have left and easily went to another franchise and run their basketball operations. But what he decided to do, as someone who was an incumbent to the new Leon Rose regime, he decided to stick around and be a part of what the Knicks are building right now. So I know a lot of times we think of money and who's going to offer the most money. I know with Julius Randle, that's what I was thinking. I thought Julius Randle was going to wait to maximize his money on the open market. But no, he decided to stick around. So and in terms of what the Knicks are building, there is a good chance that Mitchell Robinson could agree to an extension and not just wait to see if he can get the most money. And I think it's very, very looking good for the Knicks in that regard. But at the same time, we have to be sure that he's going to be healthy moving forward and he can be a solid piece moving forward in this on this team.
No, I agree 100%. What do you think, Steph?
I'm sorry. Can you just not the whole thing? Just No,
I was just saying that it's not always about money all the time. Julius Randle could have waited out to get way more money, but he stuck around with the team. And Scott Perry also could have left to become head of basketball operations somewhere else in the NBA, and he decided to stick around too. So it's not always about money all the time.
No, it's not. It's not. But for Mitch, who made 1.8 million this season and was hasn't really made a lot of money up to this point in his career, it may factor more for him than a Julius Randle or Scott Perry, people who've been around, made money, and maybe have different priorities.
Yeah, I do think you did make a good point about Julius Randle and him leaving money on the table. Even in the extension he took, he left money on the table. He could have gotten more with that extension, and he took less. And then he could have got even more if he waited until he was a free agent as well. Do you think that influences other players on the team? Do you think they look at that and say, "Hey, he did this for the team," and the same way they look at his work ethic? Do you think they look at something like that as some type of value and what they may do?
Go ahead, Queen. You got it.
Yeah, I think each situation is different. Um, So I'm not sure, but I do want to say this about Randall taking less. I don't think it was 100% altruistic, like maybe 80, 75. A part of it is him understanding the risk as well, of betting on himself, right? So I think that was part of it as well. Look at what happened. We talk about Schroeder, but
Mm-hmm.
somebody mentioned on Twitter, Victor Oladipo and the money he turned down with Indiana and Houston, and now he signed a vet minimum contract. So I think that may have been part of the decision for him as well. Like, what if things go south? For me this season. But that being said, I do think a big, huge part of it was him wanting to play for the Knicks. He liked being here, also wanting to help the Knicks as far as the salary cap is concerned, and wanting to get players in here that can help him. And when it's RJ's turn, will he think about that? He might. Will he give up as much? I don't know. I don't know, but I think it does influence. It gives them something else to think about when they're putting all the pieces together to make their decision. I think that probably now would be a piece like, hey, how does this help the team? How much do I really like playing in New York? Yeah, so I think yes, it will.
And not to talk about that team across the river, but if you look at what they did, they all consciously decided to take. I'll take this 2 million left. I'll take 2 million. I'll take just so DeAndre Jordan could get the money that he was asking
Right,
for. So
right,
I mean, it's not that far fetched, you
right,
know. But now we're not talking about everybody signing at once. We're talking about you know making a decision for somebody else in the future, which might be a little bit more far fetched. But I mean,
That's
it's
true.
it's
That's true. Because
it's
it's easier when
it's
you be like, I'm gonna give up this three for this particular guy, than
yeah.
I'm gonna give up 3 million for somebody behind door number two.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, unless they know, hey, I'm giving up this three, but you gotta keep Mitch. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's something like that,
right,
add that
right,
to add that to what he's gonna get.
right.
But yeah. Again, excited about the season. We could talk a little bit about this game coming up.
Hmm.
Um, I know the Pacers have a bunch of guys out. We I think we only have Mitch out.
Hmm.
I really believe the first two games we're gonna see the majority of the young guys getting the minutes, getting the experience, seeing what we have in them. I think the last two games is gonna be more about the veterans, the roster, the rotation. I think we'll see more of who's going to start definitively. We'll see more of what rotation patterns Tibbs is leaning towards. But I really think these first two games we're gonna see the rookies. We're gonna see Emmanuel and Obi, the
Hmm.
second year players. I think we're gonna see Knox, because I think he's slightly ahead of the rookies as far as like Tibbs rotational thought or even situational thought. So I think he'll get his fair opportunity. And then we'll see, some of the whoever's been showing the most in practice from the exhibit tens and what I mean,
Hmm.
the G League experienced guys in that nature. But I think that's going to be the opportunity to shine these first two games, especially with this first one with Indiana. I think they got five guys out. Um,
For this game or for the season?
this
This
game. I
game.
mean,
Okay.
Levert is.
Right.
I don't even think there's a timeline on him.
Hmm.
Um,
TJ
They're missing
Warren.
a TJ Warren, integral part. Um, so it's those are the two main guys, and then they got three other guys. I'm not really sure, if they're second year guys, rookies or what, but
Mhm.
those are two big pieces to be missing. Um, but yeah, what do you guys think about this first game rotation starters? You think he's gonna go with the young guys early, or even late in the game, but early in the preseason?
There's no doubt in my mind that the young guys are going to play, and a lot of the we're going to see a lot of those second team situational guys out there just to preserve some of the starters' bodies and everything like that. Tibbs is going to try to work out the last kinks of that rotation, the back end of the rotation. I think that's going to happen, but I will say that no matter what happens tomorrow, I'm more focused about how the Knicks are gonna play together collectively. I know there's still a lot of things that need to be worked out. I am not gonna go crazy if the Knicks win tomorrow by 10 or 15 points. I know most
Right.
Knicks fans
Right.
will. Knicks fans are gonna lose. Oh my God, that we won! In a preseason game, that's not gonna be me. I'm gonna stay even keeled with it, and I'm gonna analyze the game just like I do every other game. And I will start making my decisions, and my judgments about the team come, once the season kicks off and once we get into it. But for a preseason game, I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm telling you that right now about anything,
Right.
good, positive, or
Right.
negative.
That's what
Right.
I was waiting for. I was waiting
Right.
for you to say if we lose, I ain't gonna lose it either.
Positive or negative, I'm not
All
going to lose
right,
my mind
all
about
right.
a preseason game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm really looking for the first 20 games of the season
Right.
before I really have a handle on the Knicks. This game, I don't, whether we win or lose, it doesn't really matter to me. I actually do think that Tibbs is going to start. I think he's going to play it. I think he's going to play Kimba and Fournier. I think he wants to get that chemistry going right from the start. I don't think it's going to be like the Lakers and Brooklyn where those guys didn't play
Mm-hmm.
and they sat out. I'll be surprised. Put it that way. I'll be surprised. I think that he wants to put his system in right from the start, put his rotations in right from the start. Now, I don't think they're going to get as much time as they would get in the regular season, and I think that does open up time for Sims and McBride and Bacon and those type of guys, so they will get an opportunity. But I don't see Kemba and Rose just not playing in the preseason or just playing
See,
like 10 minutes a game.
I'm gonna go with about 20, and the only reason I say that is that's game one and game two. Come game three and game four, you're gonna see 34 minutes out of RJ. 33 minutes out of Red. Like I really see that in the preseason. So that's why I say early.
Right.
That's when we're gonna see the young guys. Like that's gonna be
Right.
those opportunities. And depending on the lineup or the score, I could see some of these young guys closing out a game in game one or game two. Like really give because that type of opportunity they're not gonna get in the regular season. You
Right.
know what I mean? Or it's gonna
Right.
be real hard. You know what I mean? So let's see if McBride and Grimes and Sims, maybe with a Obi and a Quickly. Let's see if those five could win a game down the stretch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's see if
So
they could especially in these first two games.
Right.
Yes,
So
sir.
so I disagree. I think I would rather see that in the later games, in game three and game four, rather than the first two games of the preseason. Only because you still have to work out some things with the starters. I understand that they played last season, but there's still a chemistry thing that has to be established there first before you can go on to the next level. And I think that's how the Knicks did it last season. In the first two games, you've seen the starters played a bunch of minutes and they got
Mm-hmm.
all the kinks worked out early on, and then towards the end, you've seen a lot of Quickly, you've seen a lot of Dennis Smith Jr. and Frank Ntilikina on the floor, and them guys basically trying to fight it out for that spot. So I think that's the same way it's going to happen this season. I do agree with you that I do want to see the young guys get a chance to close games
Right.
out, but I think the priority is going to be the starters and making sure that continuity is there first before they transition over into the second team.
That is a little bit backwards though, because you figure if you're gonna cut somebody, you're gonna release somebody, you want to do that early. You know what I mean? So, like you don't want to wait till the last preseason game. You know what I mean? Unless you earn that right to make it to the last preseason game. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why I'm thinking it in reverse. You know, like right now we got guys actually fighting for a spot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like that's why I think it was a great thing to cut Vildoza now. Why you know what I mean? Why hold on to him and drag him along when you know what I mean he may be able to, whether it's another opportunity here or just to get back to Europe early. You know what I mean? Like so that's the way I'm looking at it. Like
Right.
these guys are kind of fighting for the NBA
Well,
careers, some of them. So if they're not gonna make this team, wouldn't it be smarter to give them that opportunity so you know and so he knows, and then if you letting him go, he still has time to maybe jump on another team real quick, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
well,
I mean,
I don't know if they're thinking like that. That's like the football
yeah, the way the
preseason.
football. Yeah, I think that's a little bit different. But let me just say this about Vildoza. First and foremost, I'm gonna come out and say it. I think the Knicks signed Luca Vildoza as just someone to throw money to because they had to spend the money. To be
mm,
honest, I don't think there was no chance Luca Vildoza was going to get any legitimate playing time, particularly if they knew like that big conspiracy thing is, oh, we knew we were going to get Kemba the whole time, and all of that. I don't think there was no reason for them to keep Vildoza around from the get go. That's number one. And number two, yeah, I mean, listen, those questions can always get answered towards the end of the preseason. It doesn't have to happen, game one and game two. It takes time to play out. And I think it's not a bad thing if the Knicks wait till the end of the game four of the preseason to cut someone or do it like that. They're gonna maximize their opportunities. Like, why would you? If I'm not playing in the first two games, why would you not give me games three and four to try to make up for it? That's what happened in the summer league with Quentin Grimes. He didn't play well his first two summer league games, right? But then he was able to progress and make some things happen towards the later of the summer league. So, and that's just typically how it happens around the league. Like, they don't cut players, in the middle, smack dab in the middle of preseason, unless you're god awful. And I don't think anybody on this Knicks team is going to be that bad.
Right. I mean, as far as Vildoza's concerned, though, I'm wondering if he had a legit opportunity when they signed him, but now that Kimber's in play, now that they
mm-hmm.
drafted McBride, he just became less. And I think they were trying to get ahead as far as the point guard position was concerned. But then the things that happened afterwards, and then plus him not playing well in summer league, now he's showing up in a boot. I guess they
Mm-hmm.
figured he was behind the eight ball anyway, given what has transpired since they signed him. No need of just holding on at this point.
I think you hit the nail on the you hit the nail on the head. I think his injury right there, I think they knew it was over for him. Like he doesn't have a shot at even defending. I can't even say. I guess his spot. You know what I mean? Like his not
Right.
guaranteed spot. He can't even defend it.
Right.
So you know what I mean. So same thing with I think Knox. If you listen to the last things Tip said about Knox, that 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 COVID. Granted, that's not an injury. That's not maybe not his fault, but that setback is a real setback. You know what I mean in his positioning and in his potential rotation spot or his situational spot. I think because not only did he not get to play,
Hmm.
but our rookies kind of showed out. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, if you was there
Yeah.
and just had a decent performance, we could look at you in that same
Right.
type
Right.
of we got a decision to make. So I think it really hurt him.
Yeah. But I'm thinking that, they practicing, right? So he has an opportunity to show if he's made any improvement. They saw him all of last season in practice.
Hmm.
So what is he doing this year? Is he better, in practice? So I think if he's made some improvement, the coaching staff will be able to see it. I will say I haven't seen any improvement in his body after like
And in
three
in
and
Knox,
yeah, I
he
didn't see unless it was an old picture that
he
I
looked noticeably bigger this year. And
really
you seen his interview?
I didn't see his interview. I saw a picture of him. His legs still looked really, really thin.
All right, yeah, I didn't see his legs, but his shoulders and
Look
his arms definitely look like
look
that's one of the few things I did notice is
okay.
he looks stronger,
Okay.
and then he spoke on that too. Getting stronger this off season. So
Okay.
I'm thinking that's one of the main things he worked on. You know what I mean? Like
Okay. Okay.
what was
Maybe
strength?
it was
I
an
don't.
old maybe it was an old picture that I
But I
that
don't
I
know how. I
saw.
don't know even if that's enough. He's It's really about defense, and that's all Tibbs has talked about. He always says Knox plays good in practice, but I be wary sometimes because that seems to be the extent of his praise for Knox. Like it doesn't get any better than he practiced hard, he plays good in practice, and then anything else he says is always about he's got to work, he's got to do this, he's got to do that. So I'm actually a little nervous for Knox. I don't think I don't think he has a good shot at even sniffing the court.
Wow. Not even in
Especially
preseason?
well, this is gonna be his shot, but
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean. Like he's gonna have to really show something because we talking about, like you said, we seen you last year,
Right.
and you got demoted. You know what I mean. I'm sure we told you what you got to work on in the off season, so that's the first thing we're gonna be looking for. What did you work on
Good energy.
directly from what we told you to work on?
Hmm.
And so it's gonna, you know, I think he's the next guy to get the boot, or
Wow.
you know what I mean, like being that bottom of the rotation, because even the young guys, they're gonna have more of a chance to make a mistake. You know what I mean? They may get a short leash, but it's gonna be
Right.
expected.
Right.
These
I
guys
think
are
Right.
young. They can make mistakes.
Right.
Knox, nope.
I think it goes back to that old conversation about Obi versus Knox, right? You can make an argument like I think Steph and Sim were trying to make that argument that Kevin Knox played better early in the season than Obi Toppin. There was no question, but the political thing came into play. Knox wasn't a guy that this regime drafted. Pretty much that's what it comes down to, and that's why Knox has to work extra hard and go twice as hard just to get half as far to try to get in the rotation.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much that's how it is, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it. Not that
Right.
he's been playing terrible, but
Right, right. Because when you think about it, when he came out of the rotation, I remember saying, "Well, what happened?"
right,
Mm-hmm.
Like he was in the rotation, and then like one day, and then the next day he was situational. I was like,
right,
"Whoa!" Like what happened? Tibbs
right.
got that call. That's probably that's probably what happened. But
Sit him
listen,
now. Sit him right now.
right. But it's like, you working in a firm or on a job with the boss's son. Unless you bring in $1 million into the company, or you bringing in some new contracts, or something like that, it's going to be a hard role for you.
Yeah, I wish him the best, man. I hope he turns it around because I was one of the Knoxers. I definitely was, and I haven't given up on his talent. I haven't given up on his potential. It's really about his fit right now, because now it's really about, it's not about waiting. You know what I mean? It's about showing, improving. It,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to bring up Frank, but now I'm kind of understanding what Andy was trying to say. I say Andy, not Kev, because Andy had a more level-headed view of Frank, in my opinion. Where would Frank be? Where would Kevin Knox be if they had that opportunity to play through their mistakes? And because there was a stretch, 5, 6, 7, 8 games where Obi looked
mm-hmm.
absolutely unplayable,
Mm-hmm.
and he still got his time. So you do have to wonder, what if, Frank, or what if Knox had that type of commitment where no matter what you do, I mean, really, no matter what you do, you're going to get at least 15 minutes a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And I mean, like Knox had that window his first year, which happened to be his most productive year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was really
Yeah.
about, go ahead, play through it, learn
Right.
through it.
Right.
Um, and I brought that up about Obi as well. Like he's the one guy on the whole team. Like if somebody, I'm not gonna say wasn't held accountable, but I like how I'll say, like, he was the teacher's pet. You know what I mean? He was the one that brought the apple and put it on the teacher's desk every morning. You know what I mean? So he got to get away with a little bit more
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
anybody else. Anybody else that got pulled 3 consecutive games over a mistake, ended up in that situational spot, and he had yet to get put there. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I'm not mad about it. It's just an
And just an
observation.
observation. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I
I
mean?
mean, Tibbs would pull him if he didn't play
Yeah.
well,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't lose.
His
It,
yeah, he'll be back
yeah,
the next day at the six
he was
minute
still in
mark.
the
You know what I mean?
rotation.
Like
Anybody should have been situational, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think it should have been Obi, especially in the
in that
beginning.
stretch.
But I think Tibbs is a team player as well. There's certain things that is probably coming from the top, and Tibbs is just being a team player, because you cannot tell me he wanted to play Obi all of those minutes. It's hard for me to believe that was a Tibbs decision after seeing how he was playing in those games, right? And for Knox to go from playing one game to not playing the next, it sounds a little fishy to me. And even now we're hearing that, Tibbs wanted Bullock,
Mm.
on this team, but the front office, thought elsewhere. But Tibbs is not somebody that's gonna, he's a team player. He's gonna come in, he's gonna say, look, it has to be team rebounding, it has to be, team defense or whatever. But you can't tell me he didn't want to say, yes, it is team. But when you do have a very good individual defender, it does help,
Yeah.
so.
Yep. Yep. And just to second what Steph said, I'm not trying to cause any controversy or any type of craziness going on in the Knicks front office, because Lord knows that we've seen a lot of that within the last 20 years. But I think that's very important what Steph brought up as far as, Obi and Knox in the rotation and what's happening this particular offseason. Tibbs saying, it's Leon's decision, is whatever Leon wants to do. That does bring up a little bit of a concern for me and a red flag. Especially if this team doesn't win. And I'm not saying that, people are going to put words in my mouth and things of that nature. Please don't. All I'm saying is, if that is a red flag for me, that your head coach, you guys, with these guys every single day in practice and everything like that, is giving recommendations, and the front office is saying, no, we're going to go in a different direction. I mean,
Right.
it's supposed to be a team effort.
Right.
And obviously Tibbs is not going to make the final say, but it is alarming that has happened.
I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
but if us three, if we're a team, right, and we all three have three different choices as far as where we're gonna go, ultimately, two of us are gonna, you know what I mean,
But
not
but
get
but
what
Tone,
what,
but
what we
here's the
want.
difference. But here's the difference, right? The difference is, if you're someone like Leon Rose, if you're president of basketball operations, Steph is Scott Perry, and I'm Tom Thibodeau, right? Typically, you guys
That's
hired
fair.
me. You brought me in, right? So with that being said, typically, if a guy's gonna bring his own guy in, um, we, typically we're on the same page. We're thinking the same way. We're heading in the same direction. Now, I get it. This might be, these two incidents might be totally isolated. I don't think it's any type of problem or something that's looming
Right.
within the
Right.
Knick
Right.
organization. But it does make you stop and sit back and think, if Thibodeau can't, doesn't have, some type of say of what's going on. Maybe he does have a lot to say, but just kind of alarming that in these two particular situations, one with his rotation on the floor, right?
Mhm.
He may not have as much say as he would like, and two,
Right.
with a player that is an important part of his defense, that the front office was like, okay, we got to be able to let go. So I do think there is a little bit of concerns there. Listen, if the Knicks win, all that stuff goes
Yeah.
out the window. But once the Knicks start losing, and then the fingers start getting pointed, I think that can, snowball in the wrong direction. Let's not talk about that. Let's not
Yeah, yeah,
go
yeah,
there.
I
Right.
hear you.
Right.
Yeah,
But I'm
I'm
that
just
sound
just
like
saying,
that
Yeah.
sound like Knicks and
Right.
bruises, right?
Right. But
right.
this is what we were talking about. Who would we keep, Burke over Bullock? And even we
Hmm.
were split, right?
Hmm.
Some of us thought
Yeah.
we should have kept Burke. Others thought that we
I
should have
was
kept
Bullock all the
Bullock.
way.
Even this is in free agency. Before
Hmm.
the decision was made, we were asking
Hmm.
ourselves, who should they bring back? I lean toward Bullock as well. Especially when you look at the roster now with Fournier and
That's
Kemba, and I think Bullock would have, excuse my dog, would have played really well
The dog thinks it's Burks.
out of this second unit, right? Because you got Rose that's shifty, right, right, right. You got Rose that's shifty. You got IQ. You know, I think Bullock would have been all right. I think he would have been all right, but it's all water under the bridge at this point.
Hey, I agree with you too, though. You know what I mean. I was one for Bullock. I thought Actually, I'm lying. I was one for Burks, but with the addition of Fournier, I was saying that Bullock made more sense because we kind of kept the offense. We kept the offense and kept the defense in that aspect. Kind of just moved them in where they are as far as bench position or not. But one of the things that I am concerned about, um, I kind of feel like Burks. I think he's kind of restricted in that second unit too, like because he averaged 15, but he has the ability to give you 30, you know, any night. You know what I mean? Like not every night, but any given night. So, do, how do you think that works with our bench? Because we got one of the deepest benches, I believe. But are they going to be able to all click at the same time? Because I think one of the benefits that we had was we didn't need everybody to click. If we had two guys click off the
Right.
bench, that might be like 35 points right there
Right.
from any two guys. But it never seemed like the whole bench was clicking at the same time. Do you think that's possible?
I definitely think it's possible, and I think they will play better as a unit, barring injuries. Because remember, Rose was out, Burke was out. You can argue that they didn't have an extended period of time, playing without somebody, coming out of that lineup. So, barring injury, I think they'll have more of an opportunity to really gel. But I'm just saying, I'm looking at Quick and I'm looking at Rolls, and I'm like, Bullock would be sweet over there at the at the three position. I mean, one of my concerns, just to piggyback off of that, is just the lack of height we have on the wing, especially in that second unit. We
Mm-hmm.
got three, basically three guards, on that second unit, which, you know, offensively is going to be tough for the other team, right? Because they're interchangeable. Even Tibbs spoke to that in terms of who can bring the ball up and initiate the offense. But defensively, I don't really see a lot of strength defensively in that second unit.
It's funny that you say that because it kind of brings us right back to Knox and a way that he could, maybe see the floor. It
Hmm.
obviously it's gonna have to come from defense. And you watched the last set of interviews MSG dropped. Um, I believe Knox, Thibodeau, and quickly
No, I
again.
didn't see it.
Well, I watched Knox interview first,
Hmm.
and he does seem a lot more focused and engaged. Like, and granted, he's just answering questions, but he said all the right things. You know, it was all about getting stronger. It was all about working on defense.
Hmm.
It was all about literally finding a way to get minutes and
Hmm.
get him consistently rebounding. Doing things when he's not scoring the ball, so that he could be on the floor. So I think this might be the most focused that we've seen Knox. Well, obviously we got to see him first, but then to hear Tibbs talk about him, it like brought all my excitement back right back down to, on Knox because he's like, yeah, he got a long way to go. You know what I mean? Like he still got to earn it, and
Missing the
so
summer league really hurt him.
what really hurt him. Yeah, it was just
Right,
like,
right.
man, it was like the most
Yeah.
encouraging thing he says is, oh, he practices hard. He's doing good in practice. But
Yeah.
man, we could really use that size. Like he's the one guy that gives us that at the wing position. You know what I mean? Size and length. Um, I guess I'm gonna bring it back to that. You think there's any chance
Listen,
Knox?
and this is after a few days of Thibodeau watching him in practice. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So that's
right.
it. Just yeah. I don't know.
Mm,
You know what? I think for some coaches, they just like who they like. Some coaches just like who they like, and for whatever reason, Knox is just not that guy for Tibbs. And I'm not. I'm really interested in what changed because he was in the rotation. So I don't know if he crunched some numbers after those
mm.
first, I don't know, 15, 20, games. I forget how much it was, and he just said, "Hey, looking at the different rotation, because he does do that. He has
Mm-hmm.
said that he looks at who plays well together. Maybe after he crunched some numbers, he saw that Mitch, that lineup with him in it just wasn't getting it done on either offensive end or the defensive end. But I would be interested to know, like, what is it about Knox? And I know there's some people we say he can't play. That's that, that's what it is. He's just not good enough.
Oh man. Well, you know what? If he is the next guy out, um, there's no more ties to the Knicks and Bruises era of Knicks basketball. You know what I mean? Like all that is literally in the past.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
once he's out of here, and
Hopefully.
it's I mean, it'll be something new if something pops up. You know what I mean? Hopefully you're right,
Listen,
but
I've already reserved my seat on your couch. If the Knicks do not hit their ceiling this season, and
oh
they're in the play-in or something happens, or Kimber gets injured, I'm not trying to put that in the ether. So, I'm being first show Knicks and Bruises part 2.
well,
I'm gonna need some therapy. I tell you that right now.
it would definitely boost the boost the ratings if they do bad. But I'm rooting for them to do great. Obviously, you know what I mean. I don't care about my views and all that. If the Knicks can win a championship, or you know what I mean, if the Knicks can even just keep building towards it, I'm happy with that, man. And we keep them Knicks and bruises in the past. Yeah, I don't need no new ones. That's for sure.
Right.
I mean, I kind of wrapped up everything that I wanted to talk about. I know the Queen got a show coming up with 8:30 or
You know
8.
what? That is a very good question. It's supposed to be at 8, but I know sometimes we do it a little later because we coming over from this show.
I think it's scheduled for 8:30, Queen.
It's 8:30. Okay,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
okay,
Okay,
scheduled for 8:30.
okay,
so
okay.
we got a little break. We could get some drinks and get something to eat
Put the
and get ready
dogs
for
away.
Queens. Get ready for Queens Court.
It's 8:30.
I do want to shout out to the chat. I see God Up Knicks in the chat. Knicks Nation 112, Josh Rivera, Queens Court, Stephadon. Who else we got? Hector Gaston, um, Andrew. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I don't want to mess it up, but appreciate all you guys. Checking out the show. Hit the
Definitely.
like button. Get ready for the Queen's Court in about 30, 40, 50 minutes. I'm sure Josh, you're gonna be there.
Absolutely. No question.
I'm gonna be there. The Queen, of
Hopefully,
course, will
Chris
be
will be
there.
there.
Yeah,
So
Chris. You got a full panel tonight.
hopefully,
Um, we kicking it off, man. The season is upon us. It's gonna be a lot of content out there.
yeah.
I appreciate you guys tuning in with me. Thank you guys for joining. Any last words?
Let's get it. I mean, I'm already thinking about my sleep schedule. Am I going to be able to make every post game show? Maybe I could just make a few on this day.
Yeah,
It's going to be
it's,
hectic in a
it's
good
tough.
way.
I'm gonna be at work for the first game. I guess I have the phone listening to it and not watching it, but I'll definitely be on the after show. Get my thoughts. Josh, you got anything coming up?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm excited for tomorrow's game. I know, I'm so anxious to
Yeah.
see the Knicks get started. Still trying to plan my controversy episode. I'm waiting on some special guests, but I might just have to go in a different direction. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But definitely, guys, stay tuned. Queens Court coming up at 8:30. Tune in because you're not gonna want to miss what we got to say about this upcoming season and the preseason schedule. So tune in, guys.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you guys for joining me. I got something coming Wednesday. Look out for that. And see you next week. Knicks and Bruises, your blackest time.